Yo, Mana Squad, if you like any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to hit up the affiliate link down below to TCG Player. You can help look up some of your local game stores in the process and help show the channel some love. And you know you got to look good while you play in order to play good. So make sure you hit up our link to Into the AM as well. We have the discount code down in the description below. Look, you got to listen to Kenneth the Heathen, and he always says something about dripping in space and screaming. We don't know what it means, but do what the man says. And last but not least, hit up Heavy Play. Heavy Play is going to have some of the nicest playmats and deck boxes out there. Their magnet system between their deck box and dice trays and playmat is amazing, especially if you're playing at like bars, restaurants, stuff like that. You got to get up and move. There is no better way to keep all your stuff together, and you can show the channel some love in the process. Stay petty.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Command Center, where we like to put our favorite commander, maybe even yours, front and center. Now, you know we can't do it unless we play those three fabulous letters, EDH. What does it stand for in this new year, Hadoken?
It's a new year, but it's the same old thing that we've been telling you guys from beginning to end, all right? It stands for emotional diarrhea is heavy. That's right. We ate a bunch of greasy stuff during this holiday period, and we are paying for it expeditiously. That's right. I hope you got stock in Charmin. I haven't seen a crisis like this since COVID. Toilet paper flying off the shelves. But before we go down this muddy trail, what are we talking about today?
I think Ken's filming from his bathroom right now. If the background looks a little different, if anything looks a little off, he has remodeled the bathroom to allow maximum comfort during this time of distress. So let's all give our thoughts over to him in this moment. Instead, what are we talking about today outside of poor food decisions over the holidays?
This is not a bathroom. It's a temple, and that is a porcelain throne over there, okay? I will not have you disappear, you know, where the gods have been screamed for and cried to. You will not let that slide to your mind.
Fair.
Speaking of slide, what are we talking about?
Yeah, let's not diss the porcelain gods. All right, so new year, same old us. We are deciding to let the people in on a little secret tech that we throw in our decks. We felt like it was time. We kind of wanted to give people an insight into more so our play styles, a little bit about some pet cards that we throw into our decks, what really makes our decks us in a way, not necessarily making them unique, but really what makes them, more comparable to our play style. Like, there are things that we find ourselves doing across several decks, no matter the colors. And so if you feel like there's something really speaks to your heart as far as your play style or things that you really love, or there's some jank that you just really cannot live without within your decks, especially depending on the colors you play, we want to make sure that we're going to talk about them to everyone today. And we are going to, like I said, give you a little bit of insight on some of the things that happen within our decks. So who wants to kind of kick us off? Or do we want to start with sort of a little category first, kind of describing, I guess, what we mean with this? Do you have any examples, Derek, that you want to share to the people that we can give to kind of to show what we're talking about here?
For sure. Because I think we'll start with a more general approach, kind of what we like to bring to our decks in general that make them feel us, that are that kind of secret tech, and then we'll get into specifics from some of our favorite decks. So I think a good example that I can just kind of throw away as an example is my never-ending need to turn every deck into a Voltron deck. It doesn't matter what commander I build. It doesn't matter what the strategy is. I'm going to find a way to throw like 3 or 4 Swords ofs in there, and somehow I'm playing... I think the funniest one I had was my Scarab God deck for the longest time. Ended up somehow being Scarab God Voltron, which is just not good. But every game he had like 3 or 4 equipment, and that was basically all I was doing, was suiting up my Scarab God and bonking people. I like to turn sideways, and Swords let me do that with any card. So that's kind of my thing, is no matter what deck, I want to have some equipment in there. Because I don't care how helpless my commander is, if you give it a big enough hammer or sword, it becomes useful. So that would be a strategy of sorts that, I guess, not a great strategy, but one I enjoy.
Yeah, I guess it sounds like Derek likes beating his problems away. So
that's all you got to do. You swing hard enough, everything.
Hammer.
It's all the lotion behind him.
Hammer, meet nail. All right, so that's just a little taste of what we're talking about here. There are some little strategies that we find ourselves throwing, like I said, throwing into our decks, and some strategies that come already preloaded within some pre-con commander decks. Like, of course, Boros is probably going to be something. Artifact synergy. Of course, Esper is probably going to be something. It can go really either way, either artifact or enchantment synergy. Things like that. Blue green Simic, of course, is going to be lands draw go. Yeah, those are kind of like just base strategies that you see around those colors. But there are some things that we kind of do, like I said, could be unique to us, or it could be just some things that we do to kind of personalize our playstyle and our decks that we kind of basically try to ensure that we try to achieve those things as many times as we play our decks and our games. So how do you want to break into this exactly? Because we can jump into our decks, or we can kind of give some more cornerstone cases about what other people are possibly doing as well.
Yeah, let's start with some overarching ones. And I think this is a really good video topic and just thought exercise for people who are, especially for people that have been playing for a while. I think that was one of the biggest moments that I had. I think one of my deck building shifted after playing for long enough, is I used to care so much more about building the commander the way I felt it should have been built, trying to make it as efficient as possible, or doing the things it wanted to do. And then somewhere along the line, I realized I can take what it's doing and make it me, make it do what I want it to do. And
make it do what it do, baby.
Exactly. That's more eloquently put, but that's the best way to it makes it so much more fun, because then if you find a commander that kind of doing what you want it to do, but not 100%, all of a sudden you can build it with that flair that makes it something you love, as opposed to something feels off. Because I think everybody gets that a lot when they first start deck building, is you get this deck, you're starting to play, and you're like, it's almost there, but something feels weird, I can't figure it out. So we'll get into some more general stuff. I can kick it off with something that I've discovered recently. Because as you all know, I'm not as epic as Ken is, but I do like to ramp. Obviously, in any sort of deck, I kind of anytime I build a deck, I'm going to put a whole bunch of card draw, a whole bunch of ramp, and then figure everything else later. If I'm just drawing cards and ramping, it doesn't matter if I forget my removal or win cons, I'm still doing something in a game, and that's what makes me feel good. But doing it in green just isn't fun. I found that I just don't enjoy green rampy decks anymore. It's just all there for you. There's a million cards that get you there. For me, there's no tech, but I found, and this is going to sound blasphemous for me, I've really enjoyed ramping in white, which I almost started coughing and fell out of my chair as I said that. And there's a lot of really interesting ways to do it. So I think one of the most well-known ones that you see a lot of is using a card like Savine's Reclamation, which is just a 3 mana. You can return a permanent mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, flash it back to get 2 things. The way I read that is just 3 mana, get a land into play if you're playing a whole bunch of fetch lands. And I'm not talking about getting the expensive ones. I'm talking about Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, Fabled Passage. And at this point, there's a million. There's an Escape Tunnel that's a better Evolving Wilds. Basically, just put every Evolving Wilds equivalent in your colors in there. Use Savine's Reclamation, and all of a sudden, in white, you're land ramping. But it's not just those, and you can do it in ways that also add other value. So there's cards like Brought Back. There's cards, Brought Back, I think, is the 2 mana one. You also have some 3 mana equivalents.
White and a white.
Yeah, it's just a white and a white where you get 2 permanents into play. Second Sunrise is another really good one where all players bring permanents back into play. So it's kind of like a double whammy where one, I replace all of the Teferi's Protection type staples with some of these bring permanents back into play effects, because so late game they function great. It's a way to rebuild your board with a board wipe or protect yourself. But early game, with whether it's Brought Back, Second Sunrise, Cosmic Intervention, or a Savine's Reclamation, you can literally go off on a turn, end up ramping 2, 3, 4 lands into play, doing crazy stuff in white. And I found myself forcing these into a variety, whether it's Balloon Man in Boros or Megatron in red, white, and black. I don't even know the name of the color combination. I don't play it enough. That's how new it is to me.
Mardu.
There we go, Mardu. Right?
It escaped my mind last time we recorded too.
It's the first Mardu deck I've ever built, so it's something brand new to me. But it's wonderful, and I've had so much fun with it. And it's to me, again, if I'm playing green, I get 6 lands into play turn 4. It's boring. If I do it in white, I feel like I've at least solved some sort of puzzle. And Ken, I saw you give me so many dirty looks when I mentioned Evolving Wilds and Terramorphic Expanse. What do you have against budget?
I call bullshit on this as a man who has run Gaia's Cradle in at least 3 of your decks, and you want to sit there and talk about going cheap on lands? How you have the audacity, the unmitigated gall to sit there with your face tuned up and say some bullshit like that?
I never said I don't play fetch. I'm saying if you want to do this, you don't have to spend money on fetches. It's not only a spend money to get it. I'm gonna run fetch lands because I like fetch lands. But you don't have to. Like, you can literally do the same strategy using like 25-cent cards. Because my thing is, like, it's not interesting if I tell you, you know how you ramp in white, play a Sarah Sanctum. Well, no shit. That's not really going to help you. Who's going to get $200 to go buy a Sarah Sanctum? I'm trying to say you can do this strategy on a super cheap budget and still be able to do all the cool stuff. So yes, you did call me out. Yes, I'm going to play fetch lands. I'm a maniac. I have so many off-color fetches in Megatron. But you don't have to do that to have this strategy work.
I just love how you telling people not to smoke crack as you're smoking crack. Like what are you doing right now? Like,
do as I say, not as I do.
And said was just gonna let this slide too. That's the part that
No. I was gonna jump in and say that sounds all cool and everything, but I see you doing mana acceleration. I'm not even gonna call it ramp. You do mana acceleration out of nowhere, no matter what color package you're playing. You'll be sitting there with like 6-7 lands out of nowhere. Here comes 63 mana. I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Huh?
In a mono blue deck too.
I have more to talk about later. Yes, there are more mana related things to come. Don't worry. But I would say, as a general thing for setup, I really love these cards. I just think they ramp you. They can save you late game. And yes, eventually you play cards right, you end up with 63 mana magically. Don't ask how, it just happens. You like blink and it just starts shooting out of the sides of the if you're playing on spell table, out the sides of the screen, just mana everywhere.
We had to ban Villainous Wealth because of Derek.
I actually fun fact,
think it's all
we'll
cool.
Get to it. I have a new Villainous Wealth. There is a new Villainous Wealth that will become my pet card.
It's a mono black Villainous Wealth. I know the one you're talking about. You fucking scumbag. I know exactly the one you're talking about. It's called something robbery. You are not slick. And as soon as I saw the card, I was like,
it is not called that.
Okay. As soon as I saw,
I don't remember what it's called.
Like, watch this MF pull this. It's too black and X. I already know what it is. Yeah, I know. You got the shit grin on your face as you look at it on the top of your deck. You son bitch.
What is this card called?
I have to save it for later. This is my specific thing.
Okay.
It's to come. Apparently, Ken is a mind reader in addition to other skills. Ken, what is your shit on everything I had to say? All of my happiness was just you got off your little personal porcelain throne there and just turned to the camera and just all over my thoughts and ideas. So Ken, you go.
What are we talking about again? Okay, so stuff our decks. First of all, I always have a theory. Oh, by the way, you also forgot this guy, Weathered Wayfarer, one of the most broken cards in the game. If you put it in any white deck, because it just go fetches a land. But anyway, my strategy is this: your commander is like a condom. It's better to not have it and use it, and not have. Look, I don't know the phrase because I don't use those. But anyway, your commander should not be the end all be all. I hate it when people say, you killed my commander, so I can't do anything. Well, you know what you did? You built your deck wrong, and you're about to lose. I have no sympathy for you because you decided to use your commander as a crutch. So every deck I build with commander as the... I try to put 10 win cons in all of my decks. At least 10. Because if somebody breaks up something, I need another way to win. If you can get and 10 is the minimum. One deck I have like 20 win cons in there. If you can get through all 20, congratulations, you won. But I hate it with people because one of my favorite cards, because my theory in crafting is disruption. I love to poo-poo on your plan. To quote the great Optimus Prime from Lord of the Rings, you are a wizard, Gandalf. Now, with that being said, I find that if you disrupt people's plan of attack, their whole game plan goes out the window. Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. All right? So one of my favorite cards to play is the Trickster, the Saga. Because the first mode on it allows you to exchange 2 target creatures. Now, I don't even want your creature. I don't even take your creature. I swap your creatures with another person. So I'll give you a dragon, and I'll give you a elf wizard over there, and your deck completely crumbles by one thing. That's one thing I noticed. At least 80% of the people build their decks around their commander, and that is a problem that I'm trying to beat into people's head that you should not depend on your commander to win the damn game. And every time I pull this card out and I play it, you should see the look on their face. You would have thought the fart turned into a shit. While the look on their face, it was like, oh. And then they look at their hand and they might as well wipe their butts with it.
We got King playing Canadian Highlander over here. He's basically just playing Canlander and just throws a random card into the command zone, effectively.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
It's funny.
I have definitely. Oh yeah. I was just like, I've definitely noticed that with Ken's deck. He doesn't always build around the commander. The commander is just a suggestion to Ken.
Yeah.
And that's why he's actually forced me to not always build around my commander, even though I do, myself included, I do find that fun sometimes because it's like it can be the pilot of the deck or it can be the cog in the machine, depending on how you build your deck. So I try to not make it the end all be all and just try to have it be an add-on to what the deck is trying to do rather than my deck is trying to support my commander. But I definitely see the strategy. Yeah, Ken is finding the flaw in other people's strategy as far as building around their commander.
It does make me think too. I wonder if it's gotten worse in recent years, just because there was that gap. But I feel like 2019 to 2020, it's gotten better recently. Maybe 2023, where every commander was card draw and ramp on it. So it made you basically be able to build a deck with a lot of deficiencies, and the commander covered it all. So I feel like at that point, especially if you were a newer player learning to play at that time, you could get so used to your commander covering all of your bases that the first time someone gets rid of that for you, like imagine if you're playing like Corvold, and like all of a sudden your entire card draw, or like, you know, the Wolf Voja. You're playing Voja and it's your whole board pump and card draw engine, and someone gets rid of that and it's like, wait, I didn't put any other card draw or board pump in here. What do I do? It's like, maybe that's like the wake up call. Ken, you are doing the world a service of like, oh, maybe I need to not. Maybe I still need those, 15 sources of card draw or whatever it is in there, and I can't just rely on it. Look at that. I agree with your heathenism.
So basically, and I was listening when y'all used to do y'all laws of power thing, but I think this actually goes into law 3 of the law of power, where you conceal your intention. And that's my entire thing, because honestly, the best thing, and this is with any game, is that you have to concealing information is one of the best strategies. When people put their commander into when people show their commanders, they don't realize how much information they're giving up about their decks. And I've noticed that is a glaring weakness when we play this game, is that you literally just told me your entire strategy. If I play with you and you put out a 11/11 Eldrazi, I know you got mana rocks, I know you got ramp, I know you got, because you're not going to sit there and play fair to get this commander out. So you know what I tuck in there? Disruption, like Bane of Progress, like all these cards designed. So I'm sitting there like, okay, this is your commander. I know the pillars that your commander is built on, and all I got to do is disable 2 or 3 of those, and your deck falls on its face.
Yeah,
Case in point.
That's happened to me.
Case in point, Derek, one of your Slogger decks. No, you are very heavily dependent on your graveyard. I don't know why you like to do that strategy, but
every deck.
But it's an easy weakness to exploit. Sayed likes to get tricky sometimes, but his deck sometimes depends on. It's like he likes to compile cards and use 2 or 3 synergies at once. But if you knock one of those out, it kind of disables the deck too. Specifically, your clone deck. There's a bunch of ways to shut that down too, real easy. So when people, I'm not even
sure which clone deck you're talking about, but yeah,
exactly. Hell,
all right, let's throw it over to Seth.
Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah. No, I was gonna say, let's throw it over to Seth to get your first one, because I'm curious to see that checks. It's very kind of in line, Ken, with one of your philosophies. I'm curious to see what you go with, Seth.
Yeah, so I threw one in the chat. But yeah, basically we talked about it pregame, and it kind of falls into line with just something I definitely do. People gotta put your fog packages in there. Whether you're playing the actual fog, the mono green, one green, prevent all combat damage for the turn, or your 1 white holy day does the exact same thing. I think that those are very useful, come in handy, very timely all the time. I felt like I've needed to add an extra protection though. So the card that I want to talk about specifically to kind of encapsulate what I'm talking about with this fog package is Martyr's Cause, because there are some cards printed some years ago that said that you could nullify sources of damage rather than targeted damage or combat damage. So I'm not targeting any specific creature. I'm not targeting any specific player necessarily. Actually, yeah, you're not even targeting with this card. Martyr's Cause is 2 and a white. An enchantment. Sacrifice a creature. Prevent all damage to a creature or player from one source. So you're not targeting with this card. You're just you're nullifying any damage to either you or a creature from any source of damage on a board, or where it can come from. It could be a blasphemous act. It could be. I've talked about this card before on EDH Rec podcast. The mono black 6 sorcery where you can bring all the creatures back from the graveyard, but you lose life equal to their CMC.
Dreadhorde. Command the Dreadhorde?
Yeah. Command the Dreadhorde says that it will deal damage to you equal to the total value of the CMCs of the creatures that you bring back. Martyr's Call says no. Any effect that says you can nullify sources of damage or nullify damage done to you, cuts all that out. So free resurrection spell with that. So this stops combat damage. It stops effect damage. This is what this for. Any damage that you can do to yourself, not anything that says you lose life, but anything that deals damage to you. It could be any, like I said, a source that you control as well. Sack a creature. No, it doesn't. And I play a lot of tokens. I'm going to get into this later. Apparently, a lot of my decks love to use token synergies and spit out tokens. So I'm sacrificing creatures. I'll get into the strategy more, but I feel like creatures, tokens can definitely be used as more than just swing sideways. But I'll get into that later.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good one, because I feel like Fogs did this weird, I think like seesaw or like this roller coaster thing of, I remember when I first started playing Commander, I feel like they were everywhere. And then they got kind of overrated for a little bit, in the sense of back in the day, I used to run into a lot more combo. At least in my early days of Magic, it felt like Commander combo was still more of a thing. There weren't as many creature-based strategies and things available, so you found like there were a lot. I feel like the random exsanguinate was such a more common way to die back in the day. Like that was just like, I feel like a third of games I lost were to Torment of Hellfire or exsanguinate. But it's kind of shifted in the other direction now, where I forgot which, I think it was an EDH Rec episode that was talking about like how games end. And Command Zone's done videos on stats, and like across the board, no matter who looks at it, combat damage is still the most common way. Like across the board, most people still die to combat damage, regardless of all the new busted stuff that's printed. And it feels like a lot of those, drain effects, the Torment's a great example, people get bored of fast. Whereas no matter what strategy you use, somehow there's going to be a big swing in that game. It might not be the lethal one, but there's going to be a point in almost every game where a fog can completely change the game. Especially when you're not in green, and those are the ones that always catch me off guard. You have so many decks that run fog-like effects. You mentioned this one with like Martyr's Cause in white, and nobody's prepared for it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is if somebody knows you have a fog or they're expecting it, they can plan around it. It's that they had no idea, they overcommitted, they just ruined their game type fog that I feel like you pull out of nowhere, that I'm always banking on you having when I'm about to die. So yeah, thank you for those.
I think it's your turn, right?
Yeah, so I have I have a couple that I kind of want to talk about as far as just like overarching deck building synergies. One of them is just very simple, and I found just running more mana sinks in decks. I have one in particular that's gotten a lot cheaper recently that I love to put into decks, and it's no surprise to y'all, is Dark Depths. Dark Depths is just like one of my favorite Magic cards ever, and it's like a few bucks now. It's one of those where so many people see Dark Depths and just think of the combo piece. Let's, Vampire Hex Mage it. Let's Thespian Stage, whatever. You can almost look at it as like a 0 mana artifact or a 0 mana card comes into play. And all those turns that you're otherwise wasting mana, because think about how many times in Commander, especially if games are going long, you have 3 extra mana here, 5 extra mana here, this or that. You didn't draw, you had a bad draw. You're not drawing when you need to. You end up casting something you don't want to cast, this or that. I found myself in a lot of decks just wanting random mana sinks, just to have in my deck for a what if scenario, especially decks that like to ramp. And then that way, if I have a few extra mana here, over the course of turns, it could be like 5-10 mana I would have wasted otherwise, and it's spent on something. Obviously, the thing's more efficient. You can do things that like pump out tokens and stuff. But to me, like natural 30ing a Dark Depths from paying all that mana is like one of the most satisfying things possible. So I found just mana sinks, and they could even be, you know, creatures with those abilities and things like that. The value there is real. It's just if you're efficient and you actually use, and I started trying to pay attention to how much mana I waste every game, whether it's just on a creature I feel like is not useful at that time or don't spend, it's kind of depressing to realize how much I'm just throwing away every single game.
One of my favorite mana sinks is Drana Calastria's Blood Chief. I should build this as a commander, but I feel like it's a little bit too obvious. But basically, this was a older card. It came out around I don't know. I don't know sets anymore. What is time? Yeah. Rise of the Eldrazi, I think, or whatever. But basically, this is a big old mana sink on a creature. It just says X and 2 black. Target creature gets -X, -0/-X until end of turn, and then Drana gets +X/+O until end of turn. So you just turn your 4/4 flyer into a bigger creature, possibly also killing off some other creatures in the process.
And yeah, it's stuff like that where it's like maybe at a base level that might not be better or like the perfect slot card for something you want in a different category, but you end up getting so much of that extra utility out of it throughout the course of a game that scales that it ends up being you get to have more fun with it as the game goes on. And I mentioned it was a 2-for-1, so I just want to mention one other thing real quick as we kind of go around before we get into deck specifics. There's going to be a video actually looking to the future. I think the last video we released, this will come out after, is going to be putting mini games into my decks. I think it's something that's super fun that has made it could be something as simple as like meld cards. If there's a meld card in a color combination I'm playing, I'm probably going to force it in just because there's that little side quest of bam, okay, my game's not going well, probably not going to win, but I can try to meld Titania or I can try to meld Mishra, and it's going to give me something fun to do despite the fact I have no chance of actually winning this game. Dark Depths is another example. If you have a Dark Depths and your goal is to natural pay mana into that to get your giant spaghetti monster Merit Lage after, perfect. Like bam, that's something that you can do as a side quest. There's so many little things. I used to have a deck that was mono red that played one of those panorama sets of lands, and the whole point of the deck was to have enough like land tutors in mono red to play all the basics to make a panorama, and that was like my little Exodia that I did. So little things like that, I try to force at least one in every deck, because it just makes it more fun. Because you're gonna end up in so many games where you don't have the right draws, where you're getting your butt kicked, someone's pub stomp, or whatever it is, and it like gives you something to like come back to the deck over and over again, and not just make it feel like, well, I figured everything else out here. So those, I guess, that's a combo. Mana sinks and mini games. It just makes sure you always have something to do. But yeah, I'll throw it over to Cam.
So this goes back to my package of disruption and stopping game plans before they get out of hand. So
I don't want my friends anymore.
Wait. Hold on. For the viewers at home.
You see, as of lately,
I'm talking about mini games. This man says pull out a damn.
See,
the viewers don't even know what, or listeners don't even know what just happened. So
wait. It hurts. Wait. Let me set it up.
Hold on, that transition.
Let me set it up. So back to what I was telling y'all about relying too much on your commanders. I keep some stuff on me. Louis Knapsack is where I hold out of work at. Quote to you by the great Clifford Harris. Now, like I told you, I've been playing against people lately, and I've been seeing a bunch of fuckery go on. And
who are you playing against?
And I love the fact that Sid mentioned fog effects. I am so glad that you mentioned fog effects, because now I start running this little easy card called Bone Crusher's Giant. And it's not the fact that it's a 4/3. Oh no, it's the 2-mana instant part that says damage cannot be prevented this turn. So you cast your fog effects. The 15 people at the local LGS that I played through, and they have eaten this, and I love the look on their face. They were like, okay, but it's a fog. And I was like, It's a failure over gold. That's exactly what it stands for, fog. Anyway, eat the rest of this damage and die. But yeah, I love that. Let me introduce you part 2 of my fuck you package. when I tell you not to rely on your commander, I play the Drownester Magistry. DM, pretty much the DM.
I just need to say Kim pulled up, I think, a German version of it, which is why it's just great as Magistrate.
It was so raw that my computer could not handle the English version. It says the nine Gegner Kohin. I'm not even gonna try anymore. Anyway, in English that says a Rick James bitch. That's what it says. But in English it says. Let me pull up in English.
It says, I don't want friends. I don't want family. I came here to ruin everyone's.
Your opponent cannot cast spells from anywhere other than their hand. So you know that graveyard you love so much, Derek, get bit. You know how your people like to play cascade spells? Not today. You know Discovery is going to be discovered into your hand. You know, oh, I have omniscience. No, you don't. So well, no, omniscience still counts. I'm not going to take that back. But, you know, your commander playing stuff for, I love Derek. You play a lot of red. Yes, you do. You know what red does? It doesn't draw. It exiles. Derek, can I ask you a quick question right quick? Is exile in your hand?
If I believe in myself.
If wishes with butts with candy and nuts, we'd all have a diary of Christmas. But I want to ask you that question again. Is exile in your hand, Derek? Is it in your hand?
I plead the fifth. I refuse to answer. I want my lawyer.
What did the fifth say to the face? Anyway, and then last but definitely not least, oh my lord. Hey Derek. Hey, no, say it. You know how you like to sack creatures to reduce your mana cost? Or my favorite, that bum feats that whenever you draw a card, it reduces stuff by 2? Yeah. Let me introduce you to Lavinia.
Yeah.
Azorius.
I'm familiar
Renegade.
with her. I'm familiar with her. Yep.
So you guys can have your fun. You can exile your cards. You can reduce all the cost in the world. Hell, I want your commander to be free as it sits its lonely ass in the zone collecting dust. When I tell you I'm here to wreck your strategy, I'm here to what? I'm installing the brakes just to beat them off. That is the whole purpose of this.
I thought it was going to be such a wholesome video set. I thought we were going to talk about pet cards and what weird stuff do we do. And Ken just runs out here with the cinder block throwing it at our face.
Y'all here to have fun. I'm here to watch the bodies hit the floor.
From up top. Okay. Man, that was crazy. Yeah, Ken does do stuff like that. He will definitely take you off your game plan. You did mention, was it Ashiok? Yeah, this is part of his Ashiok package, his Hager package.
Oh,
and I love
said bring us back to the happy place.
You know the funny part, my favorite part, the icing on the cake is when I play Ashiok and people don't read the static ability, and they play all these cards to go. Oh, I'm gonna go demonic tutor. Unless whatever you tutor for is in your head.
Crazy. Yeah. So, I think I want to talk about a strategy I've been using before we get into our personal decks. Is I definitely want to try to draw cards more. I've been forcing myself to, when I start building my deck, start putting my draw packages in, start putting my ramp packages in, start there, and then the rest will follow. And then from there, I'll kind of curve out some of my draw packages with some things I think really may synergize a little bit more with the deck. So I found myself playing Kagemaru. I've told you guys about this on the channel before, but the Demon Spirit for 3 and 2 black, its power and toughness is equal to the number of cards in your hand. It's also a board wipe on a stick that you just have to pay a black for, and all creatures get -X equal to the number of cards in your hand. So I like to psych people out with this commander. I don't want to wipe the board, but some people force me to wipe the board. A lot of people force me to wipe it. But my goal for that deck for myself, like Derek talked about mini games, I do that for a lot of my decks as well. My goal is to get Kagemaru as big and as big and powerful as I can, power and toughness wise, just so I can just run over you. Like, I'll throw trample on him. I don't care. I'll kill you with commander damage. That's my goal for the deck. So one of the things that I love to do to try to get him to that goal. Came across this card a while ago. Didn't really find a place to put it until now, really, because I was always scared to play it. But Peer into the Abyss for 4 and 3 black sorcery. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and lose half their life. Round up each time. I cast this on myself every single time. I will gladly put 30, 40 plus cards in my hand and then, lose half of my life. Because I want my commander to get that stupidly big, because chances are I'm grabbing some crazy stuff in my hand. So I can play simple cards like Essence Harvest, which is a sorcery for 2 and a black. Target player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So I've been doing this thing where I try to, like I said, draw a bunch of cards, maybe even try to get my creatures or certain creatures stupidly powerful, absurdly powerful, and just do crazy things with them, whether I'm swinging out with them or I'm flinging them at you with some type of effects. So that's one of the strategies that I play with, is draw crazy, get crazy big.
I do. Ken is just putting middle fingers up in our Discord chat currently with an Orcish Bowmasters. I heard you like fun. Well, no, never have fun and die to your fun.
Hey, if an Orcish Bowmaster is on the table, guess what? I can just board wipe.
but you did bring up something, and I never thought about this until this moment. I have like maybe 30 commander decks, and only one of them kills you with commander damage. Out of all my decks, only one of them kills you with commander damage, and it's Carl.
You're doing
That
it wrong.
Is the only one.
Come over to the Voltron side. It's not effective. It's not good, but it's fun. You need to bonk things. You got to bonk more. That's why you play all these hateful things. If you bonked more, you would play less of these sad, fun stealing cards. So I found myself doing the same thing. I've actually found myself prioritizing card draw over ramp, and I've talked about this a few times, but I used to kind of try to have an even split of like 10 to 15 card draw, 10 to 15 ramp, but I've gotten to the point where it's like I might cut. If my deck is not a big mana deck, I'll cut maybe 4 or 5 pieces of ramp to just get extra card draw, under the mindset of like, as long as I draw enough cards and hit every land drop, I'm probably going to be far ahead mana wise, or further ahead than I would be missing land drops from not drawing enough cards and ramping. So I do agree. I found myself like every deck is just all of my card draw, and then I'll figure out the rest later. Because if you don't draw cards, especially with how many value commanders there are, you're kind of done. You can't catch up.
See, and that's the problem. You see, y'all keep thinking too linearly when it comes to this deck building. You think about ramp, card draw, how you're gonna get explosive starts, and all that. You know how I start my decks. First, we start by sacrificing.
We can't talk about that on camera, Ken. That's not a. We have to leave that part out. Skip to step 2.
Okay.
Profit.
Step 2, I find the evil goat that's farmed and raised in the bowels of a septic tank. We sat there and we dispatched that while an unholy choir sings the fifth harmony of Karina Burana. All right, I light a couple of matches and a couple of candles as we sit over a desecrated tombstone, and then I figured to myself, I say, self, how can I cause the most damage? And I'll start with those 2 cards, and I'll build in a circle, and everything spirals from that.
It all makes sense. That poor goat lives in a little shit tank and then gets sacrificed. I don't know what part's worse. All right, let's jump over.
Modrotha literally spawned from the Trickster God's heist. I was like, how can I keep casting this and causing disruption? And then it was like, oh, Modrotha.
Oh,
that's crazy, because I thought about building a deck like that as well, just a kind of a chaos, kind of a chaosy in a way, but it's like switching people's creatures and turning people's spells and putting back into your hand, stuff like that. Like, I thought about doing it, but I thought that could be really annoying. But turns out Ken was already an asshole in our group doing it.
I feel like if we're ever building and our thought is that might be too annoying or mean, Ken's already done it, and we just have to ask, how'd that go? Or we've had it done to us, and maybe that's why we think that. Ken, I don't know who hurt you. I think I do know who hurt you. I think you played against Joe a few times and then decided that the world will burn after feeling the suffering.
That was his villain arc.
Yeah, that was the beginning, and it never arced. It's just still arcing up. It's like one of those like exponential curve things. It just forever. It's just always approaching infinity, but never reaches it. Whatever it is. I haven't taken math in a very long time. You know what I mean?
I can tell you how my villain arc started. Okay, one day it was like it's a boy, and that's how it happened. So literally how it started. Came out kicking and screaming and swinging on the umbilical cord. So,
All right, so
just like to watch.
So wowie, like swinging through the little. Let's go.
What a milk at.
Let's go to the last.
All right.
Where's Vince? Shout out to Vince. Where's the milk at?
Yeah. So this first one I want to talk about. This was a deck that I did not find myself. I just kind of want to talk about a few cards within the deck to kind of help really bring out the strategy as far as what I was trying to do. So I had a card in mind, and Derek definitely witnessed this. This was a Sarevok Deathbringer. This was just a random human knight with the background ability from, I believe this was one of those like Dungeons and Dragons sets or what was it called? Baldur's Gate.
The first one was just like D&D. The second one was Baldur's Gate.
Okay, yes, I believe this was the first one. I think it was a CLB or something like that. Was the
I think it's Baldur's Gate. Commander Legends Baldur's. Chances are, if it's like a super busted fun commander card that you've never heard of, it's probably from Baldur's Gate. That set was insane.
Yeah, that's probably true. But yeah, Sarevok Deathbringer for three and a black is a 3/4 human knight. It says at the beginning of each player's end step, is checking every end step to see if no permanents left the battlefield that turn, that player loses X life, or X is his power. So I just thought to myself, I was like, I wonder out of our play group, like how often do things actually leave the battlefield? And I put it to the test, and apparently not that often. Or people start putting themselves on notice once Sarevok hits the battlefield, or they see he's in my command zone, and they try to make sure things are going to the graveyard, or some card is getting from the battlefield to the graveyard somehow. And it's really funny to see because everyone either forgets about it or they're like overly fixated. Like, I need to make sure something dies, or I forgot to kill something. And it's just kind of a funny thing to see. If you're wondering what I paired it up with, it was Clan Crafter, the blue background. Says that commanders you control you can pay 2 to sack an enchantment, and you put a 1/1 counter on this creature and draw a card. So it worked perfectly with what Sarevok was trying to do. And that's just in the command zone. I want to talk real quick about this accidental combo I came across. And these are actually 2 cards I play in a lot of decks, and I've never seen them play together until this happened. And this was an enchantment called Pendril Miss. And I'll put that in the chat for you guys to be able to see. And there is a artifact that you guys, well, I'll talk about the enchantment first. Pendril Miss, 3 in a blue. All creatures have at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice this creature unless you pay 1 generic mana.
So it's Tabernacle.
It's kind of like that, but in blue. So you can pay 1 to protect your most precious creatures. Whatever doesn't get paid for has to go to the graveyard. I paired this up accidentally with an artifact called Mana Web for 3. And I actually play this card in a lot of decks. Whenever a land an opponent controls is tapped for mana, tap all lands that player controls that can produce any type of mana that land can produce. So basically, if you tap a land and it can produce blue, you have to tap every other land that can produce blue. If you tap a command tower, you have to tap all of your lands. That's basically how that works, because command tower can produce all colors, except for your colorless lands, of course. So basically, this turns into a game of who lives and who dies. and also, do you get to play this turn, or are you sacrificing your creatures? Because essentially this becomes almost like a 2-card combo, where it's like either you pay to keep this creature alive and you end up tapping like most, if not all of your lands, or you just let your creatures die and now you can play your turn with your lands untapped.
It's almost like a weird like back to basics type effect, or like a winter orb type effect, because effectively if you don't have mana to spend in your upkeep, you just don't get to do anything. You effectively have to lose your board. Well, at least you get the choice. So you do get that choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice.
It's not a great choice. It's like, am I going to sit on... Am I gonna jump into this like shark
I'm not here to
infested
give you
water?
two great options.
Yeah, I was about to say, am I gonna jump into the shark infested water or this shark infested water where the sharks also have laser beams? Which one am I gonna choose? And it's just
Am I gonna
Freaking laser
sandwich or
beams.
The poop sandwich or the poop taco?
freaking laser beam.
Right. So as you can see, it put people in a rock and a hard place where I didn't even know if it was a fun experience anymore, and I thought it was just a secret little janky little combo synergy thing going on there where I was just like, man, I like games where I'm forcing people to make choices or stuff like that. Ken hates when I do that, but I love it. And because I really want to get to the psychology of like what choices do you make in certain predicaments. So
That's
almost
all-
like the jigsaw kind of thing.
That's all
So it's just
bullshit.
like, hey, so it's like, hey, do you keep your creature or do you tap your lands out? You make the
I
decision.
kill the I
I'm
kill
just
the
here to set it
player.
up.
That's what I do. I kill the player. That's what I do. You know how
So
you win
that's-
Saw. You kill the guy. That's how you beat Saw.
That's right. If anybody ever asks you if you want to play a game, you immediately punch them in the face and run. That's one thing. It's I mean, if it's a doll, run faster. That's the only.
even if you had a carnival, they ask you want to play a game, just punch them and run.
It's a terrible life advice. Kid, what? I do agree. I do think that this almost fits into the previous conversation point too. I think that's another like kind of central point of a lot of your decks is giving those decisions, is putting people in spots where you have to choose kind of what route you want to go. This one in particular is cool in the sense of one, I've never seen anyone else play it outside of you, but it's also like there are ways around it. You're not in a situation where if you have multiple colors, you might be able to get out of it and still have some untapped lands. If you are in a situation where you can use things at instant speed, like it's not, I compared it to Winter Orb, but it's not that Winter Orb experience of there's no hope, there's no point, there's no life. It's like, this is like okay, get your brain going. Because yes, it might be able to shut you down, but at the same time, there's a puzzle to solve, and no matter how bad it seems, there's a way to tap certain lands, keep certain creatures. It's going to get you out of it. And I agree. For me, that's a fun experience to play against because there is a correct answer. It's not just all bad options. As much as we joked about it, there is a correct way to get out of that situation. And yeah, so I love that.
Yeah, the first time we played it, you got around it by somehow having enough colorless lands to save the creatures that you wanted.
Woo utility lands. All right. No, I like that a lot. And I like that commander too. I think this is a category commander we're seeing more and more of, but he is a great example of a speed the game up commander in that if stuff's not going to the graveyard and you're just sitting there, we'll take damage. And if you are getting things to the graveyard and the board's progressing, if the game's progressing, then okay. But it's basically like he's sitting there with a little match behind your ass, like just go. You get ready to go. And I think that's great. I feel like you've been drawn to a lot. We've talked about the Lord of Pain and a lot of other commanders that you've found fun. We're gonna do a whole video about the Vizsla, which if y'all don't know what the Vizsla is, we're gonna do a whole separate video on that. That fits into that category as well. And yeah, we'll have a whole video about that style of deck. But it's super fun. And I think it's good to have a puzzle to solve, especially when the puzzle is progressing the game and not just like, oh, here's a puzzle. Like some of those old cards, it's like reshuffle everyone's deck, draw 7 new cards. The game didn't matter. Yeah. Like, no, that's not a puzzle. You're just asshole. This is more of a puzzle to solve. I like it.
Right.
Ken, we're gonna throw it to you. Do you have your deck and special card ready?
So my decks bounce between Intet and Muldrotha. More specifically, one of my pet cards is the Genesis Ultimatum because it is one of those cards where if you're behind the 8 ball, you get your behind whooped, and there's no hope. If you draw this can actually I've had my board wiped. I've been completely decimated to the point, and I've literally top decked this and won the game off this card alone. So this is like one of my saving grace cards. And you guys already know my philosophy about class. If no matter what color combination, you should have at least one class card in your decks because it is literally there to help benefit your decks and will help them pop off. Another thing I like to point out are the court cards, in particularly the Court of Bounty, and which I didn't read till later that you can put a land or a creature. But Court of Bounty is an amazing card because it's ramp that I don't even care if I'm the Monarch. As a matter of fact, as soon as I become the Monarch, I invite somebody to take it away from me because I use it as sleeper ramp. Because after a couple of turns, people are like, how do you get so much mana? I was like, yeah, y'all just let this card stay on the battlefield. My other favorite go-to is the Court of Cunning, which allows you to mill people, and this is a very aggressive strategy because one, it comes out on turn 3, and people don't realize how much damage this does until like 2 turns of it on the board, and they like, how many do I have to mill? It's like, yeah, you have to mill 10. Going back to my Modrotha package, this is a new one, the Head Shredder. This also goes in comparison with the Court of Cunning because I mill myself too. Anytime you mill a land, it comes instantly on the battlefield. You talking about something that ramps out of control? This gets out of control stupidly. Another special one I like to put towards the class is called the Winter Moon. Now, I'm not. If anybody knows me, whenever I build decks, I have land specifically for the decks, but I play 99% basic lands. So when people like to get out there and play ancient tombs and all that type stuff, that's beautiful. Until I slot this in there because it says players can't untap more than one non-basic land. I feel for you. I really do. I love the way you tetherball. so
This just feels targeted, incredibly targeted. I love that. Yeah.
So go.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and put your strategies out there as I poo in your Grey Poupon. So
that one was just
that's
unnecessary. I liked everything else you were doing. It seemed fun, and then it just popped up.
All right, go ahead with your surprise entry, Derek. Hold up, wait a second. Hold up, hold up before you. Let me go ahead and do this for you.
I got you first.
You
All right, so
I got you.
So yes, so I want to talk about one of my favorite decks currently that I can't stop playing and tweaking, and it's Megatron. And Megatron, the whole deck is basically you're trying to get big artifacts out, fling artifacts, and then make a whole bunch of mana based off damage you're able to do and life loss from your opponent. So it's like a weird colorless version of Neheb, if anybody's seen Mono Red Neheb. But like playing this deck, I was trying to find fun mana sinks for it. I wanted to go much more into the artifact and affinity build than I did the same as Neheb, where it's just like burn spell, ramp into burn spell. I didn't find that as much fun. So I went heavy into artifacts, but I wanted to have some X spells. And the ones I saw in EDH Rec weren't sticking out to me. I saw the ones that were most commonly played. I wasn't feeling it. Some of them are fun, but it's kind of more basic, like a Dregs of Sorrow and things like that. But I went on Scryfall and just searched for every card with X in the mana cost in the colors red, white, and black. And I stumbled across this card from earlier this year, yes, called Outrageous Robbery. As it's everything. I like it better than Villainous Wealth. It is an instant speed card for black, and X. It says target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library face down. You may look at and play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast it. So there's a few things here why I like it better than Villainous Wealth. One, it's instant speed, which is in Megatron, it doesn't matter. You're always almost going to be playing this in your second main phase. But just having the option of like, oh, by the way, instant speed, I want to see what you got to see if it can save me. That's awesome. The other part I love is it doesn't cast the spells for free. The reason I stopped playing Villainous Wealth is because if you got X to a big enough number, you just won. There was no like strategy to be had. If you got X to 15, you just start casting stuff. Everybody's like, yeah, I scooped. This is stupid. There's too many spells being cast. And it ruined some of the experience because the whole fun of me was like, I wanted to strategically pick spells from people. But it was just, you get everything for free. You don't have to work for anything. It was just like, I didn't feel like I was playing other people's decks. It felt like I was just winning off of it. But this, you actually have to spend mana. So you get to exile a whole bunch of someone's deck and then pick their best pieces. But the other thing, the cherry on top for this card, is that you exile them face down. I'm going to be a hypocrite for this because I hate when people do this to me. But you have to make them think the whole time, oh shit, what cards did he hit? Because if I get for like X's like 10 on this card, I'm going to exile your top 10 cards face down. You have no idea what I have. I can cast them whenever I want. I'm just holding on to them. I can sit there for the rest of the game and just not let you see what I have, or I can just start popping off and casting stuff. And the last thing in that deck that makes it so perfect is the fact that it says you can spend mana as though it were mana of any type, meaning that colorless mana all of a sudden lets you cast whatever the hell you want to cast. So from start to finish, it's like they saw everything that I no longer loved with Villainous Wealth, improved it on every axis, and yeah, I'm going to attempt to cast this card as many times as I possibly can. So you're giving me very dirty looks, and I don't understand why.
Let me see if I understand this correctly. You don't want to play Villainous Wealth because it just ends the game. So you rather twist the knife like a sociopath.
So no, it's not that it undeterministically ends the game. So it's not like if I just cast Villainous Wealth and every time I hit a combo in one, that's cool. The issue I have is every time I do it, I just cast a bunch of spells and the board state is so clogged that people are like, screw it, we're done. I get to twist the knife, and look, the set symbol's a knife, so it's even better. You just like stick the knife in and just like twist it slowly, and then you slowly reveal the cards you stole from someone and then kill them with it. And it's just like the most satisfying thing ever.
Are we gonna sit here and pretend like he's not gonna cast this thing for no less than 50? Are we gonna sit here and pretend that?
I never said what the X would be. I get to cast whatever I want, and that's the fun thing. It's just
if you hit me for this for half my deck, I'm scooping anyway.
Well, you would scoop it, you would petty scoop, but it doesn't matter. You know what? Fine, I'll keep it low enough for you. I just want the mind game. I don't want you to know what I have, but I want to know. And the fact, because I think this is one of the larger effects like this. Most exile off of someone's library effects that are X's, like you reveal the top, you exile the top face up, or you have like the Gonti effects that are face down, or like the Ragavan effect. I think this is one of the biggest, if not the biggest way to exile face down cards in Magic. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
All your plan is upended by one fetch land, right?
What do you mean one fetch land?
If I crack a fetch land, I can see the cards that remain in my deck.
You got to sit there and think about it, though. You got to start comparing your deck list online to what cards are still there. You be like, wait, did he take this card? Let me look through it again. Did I play this card? Is it in my hand? Is it in my graveyard? Mind games. So it's
only two places it can be. The hand that you've been staring at whole game, or the few. Sand already said most of the shit don't go in our graveyard anyway. So I'm like, I guess if my Crypto of Right is not in my deck, it's in the exile pile.
Mind games. If I make you stop a fetch just to check your deck, mind games.
That's like I wonder what's in this clear sleeve. Like, no, that's not a mind game.
I don't.
All right, let's bring this mind game to
I am just happy. This is the funniest thing is I discovered this card 5 days ago. I had no idea. I missed it in Karlov Manor. There were a lot of cards printed. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, whatever. I was looking at expos, just discovered this, and it's my favorite thing. No one can.
Wait.
I gotta be real. Yeah, I gotta be real. Karlov Manor, it do actually have some bangers in there.
For sure. Yeah. You said what did I mine crack?
Well, when we cracked packs, I showed you this card.
Oh, I can't read. You know that. It takes a while to process. Reading retention's really hard. I have to read it like 7 times.
All right, how about we bring this mind game to a close? All right, so we delved into our own personal decks for this one, people. So we talked about our own personal strategies, ways that we like to play. You got a little bit of a sneak peek into some of our strategies and cards that we actually use in some of our decks, some of our strongest decks that we still keep together to this day. So I guess we can do the people a little extra surprise and throw them a deck list up here in the description or something like that. We'll see if we can do something like that. Give them the secrets to the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, yeah.
I know, Ken. I know. We're gonna give them the secrets to the Wu-Tang. At least one.
Y'all go give them the secrets to the Wu-Tang. You ever tell you how you learn my deck by playing against me and let me beat the absolute holy dog crap? I'm a dog walk you in the parking lot. And if you want to get dog walked in the parking lot, come see us at Magic Chicago. It's cold enough and the leash is very short.
Yeah, we will be there in Chicago doing Chicago things. Probably even get some fried chicken.
We don't want to go to jail.
No, we get some fried chicken from Chicago. We go to the right spot.
It better be better than Utah. That we sang that fried chicken in Utah song for months. Went there and it was actually the food was great. They made us sit outside in 20-degree weather. That was 3 years ago. I still haven't forgiven them.
Yeah, and the chef
Chicago
was wearing
indoor restaurants. What?
And the chef was wearing shorts and a scarf, and I was like, "What are you selling here? What is you doing?" Meanwhile, Joe sitting there dying is like, "This chicken good." I was like, "Bro, you dying right now." But I'm gonna tell you what a bomb food at. Okay, I was so mad we didn't go back to Philly because the Amish people will do you right, man. They can cook curtains and it'll taste delicious. Like I don't know what they was doing. Like whoever they was praying to over that food, dude, what they was cooking.
Yeah, shout out to Philly. They need to bring us back there because that food court across the street from the convention hall.
Yeah, but Chicago got some great eats too, so
yes,
we're definitely gonna hit them up too. Ken doesn't get an opinion on this one.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you want to. I'm sorry if you want to dip your sandwich in dirty water and call that food.
Well, if you need to get prepped for Chicago, if you need cards, hit up our link for TCG Player in the description. You can go ahead and get some cards, get prepped to look. You just heard what Ken is going to try to do to you if you get a game with him in Chicago. Get ready. Start ordering stuff now. Get it in time. Also, if you want to look good, because look, sometimes we get killed by Ken. We can't do anything about it. At least look good while you're losing, and that's what we do. We got Into the AM. Brock, you're Into the AM. Got it all over here. Doing what we do. Ken doesn't, but don't be like Ken. That's the word teaching today. Be like Sedna. Look, we're stylish and accepting our losses. And then obviously also hit up Heavy Play. They got awesome playmats, deck boxes, everything. Especially for conventions, if you haven't tried the playmats and stuff out, having the ability to get up and move at a convention is one of the most clutch things ever without having to get your stuff thrown everywhere. So hit out the link in the description as well. I think that's everything we got. Other thing I wanted to shout out is we talked about it. We're probably going to end up doing some videos soon about our personal decks, like getting into the more of the specifics, maybe not Ken's because it's a code that must not be broken, but at least Sed and I, some of our decks, getting into kind of the in and outs of how they work and how, more importantly, I think how our opponents feel. Something I don't see a ton of when talking about decks. I really want to get into how it makes the other people feel, how it's like kind of affecting table dynamics, things like that. So got some stuff coming up.
That actually reminds me.
Oh yeah, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier, or Ken alluded to it earlier. He talked about the Laws of Power series that we used to do. Hey, if you want to see it come back, let us know. We'll probably dive back into it. I think enough heat has died down.
Finally, yeah. That
one more,
y'all. Whoever, it's just a reminder every time we do it. This is not real life. It's supposed to be for a game. You crazy people, maniacs trying to manipulate human beings in a regular setting. We play a card game, people. Sorry, yeah.
Manipulate people in a card game.
It's completely better. It's way better. It's strictly better.
Side note, I have a new thing that I'm doing where if I defeat you, you must sign my death note. It will be at MagicCon and every other place that I'm traveling to. So make sure you sign it because I need to keep records and logs of how I destroyed you.
Yo, please like and subscribe. Check out some of our previous videos. Back in 2024 and beyond, but we hope that our 2025 is going to be awesome and great, and we look forward to meeting you guys in Chicago and all the other cons, and also here on the YouTube comments. So like I said, like, subscribe, share to your friends and their worst enemies, and can't wait to meet you all down the line. All right, peace out, everybody.